Hey everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I know it's early and I haven't done this in a while, but I wanted to have a conversation with y'all, so I'm going live. I think I'm just going to start just talking off the cuff of things because I know this is an impromptu and everybody didn't expect me to come live, but I want to have this conversation with y'all on here. So, hey loves, how you all doing? My name is Lauren Mathis Cornish. I'm the owner of Love Story Mobile Winery, and I'm a wine business owner, a housewife who homeschools her kids, and we have conversations over here, all things wine, and all things wine, Black history, and all that. We used to dive into relationship conversations. I really haven't done it in a long time. But I just thought that I'd dive into that conversation today because, and don't mind the wig moving. Yes, it's a wig. It moves. It's okay. But yeah, I wanted to have this conversation with y'all. Now, as the day was winding down, and I just so happened to be scrolling on my phone while I was uploading business stuff on my pages, and I was over on Instagram, and I saw the conversation about about PG County areas such as Oxon Hill, Forest Creek, and I believe it's Fort Washington, having the highest AIDS and HIV rates. If I'm reading it was read correctly, that on the news it was announced that and also celebrating World AIDS Day, of which usually we all recognize World AIDS Day on Monday, but unfortunately this administration, they being who they are, but World AIDS Day was Monday. And so all of the conversation, how we all reflect and we talk about AIDS, and we talk about AIDS, HIV prevention, and all of those things, and honoring some people who unfortunately caught the disease and perished, but also for the ones who have survived, who still has it, how they are thriving, how they are doing, and the support that they need, and also making, just talking about the awareness of AIDS. But I wanted to get on there and have a honest conversation with you all. HIV has been around since the 1970s, and of course it became transmittable to humans transmittable to humans that they know of in the 1970s. They had a whiff of it with a man who had it in the 1960s, but in the 1970s that's when it was known as the we all know it was called the gay disease, the gay cancer, but we all know now that HIV and AIDS, it doesn't matter what your sexuality is. You can get it from unprotected sex. You can get it from intravenous dirty needles. And it used to be you can get it from blood transfusions, but because medicine has been so advanced, they have been able to make sure it's filtered out, or they don't use the blood of an HIV positive candidate. But it can be passed on and transmittable from mother to child as well. If a mother has HIV and she HIV positive or AIDS, she can, if she is untreated, because you can get treatment now. If it's untreated, then of course you can pass. She can pass it on to her baby. But like I said, it's been 40, 50 years now about AIDS awareness, education, and all of that. I'm a millennial. I remember in the 1990s, where I was in the mid 1990s, and even in high school, in the late 1990s, we always had the conversation about AIDS in our school system. And not only that, but a lot of us had family members who did have HIV and AIDS and also succumbed to the disease. And and like I said, the awareness has always been there. If you all have followed me for a while, you all know that before I got into the wine industry, I was into the sexual health and wellness industry. I am a licensed sex educator. I am a licensed sexologist or intimacy coach, and that was my first business. And I was also a bedroom candy consultant. And then I had took a break during the pandemic when I was starting to go through things on my own, and dealing with my own traumas and stuff. And so I took a break on teaching sex education, but I've been teaching sex education for oh my gosh, a long time. Even before I became a licensed and also became a sex coach, I've been talking about it all my life, and even when I was younger with my friends, because I saw what having different STDs can do, even in my own front yard with family members that I had, distant family members that we had that had contracted, uncurable STDs such as HIV. And so I've always been adamant about learning, about protecting yourselves. And I have always, like I said, I've always been adamant about protecting yourself and making sure that you take the proper precautions to get it. Now, I mean, not to get it, to protect yourself from getting it. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, I've been teaching sex education, like I said, oh my goodness gracious, for 15, 20 years. Okay, 10, 15 years, sorry. 10, 15 years. I've been teaching sex education. I've done many seminars, many classes of all different types. I've helped other couples as well in my journey. And just on the sexual, like I said, on the sexual health and wellness piece. But this disease has been going on for 50 plus years. And with all the resources and all that we have, here is the question that I have that we also have to start really looking at. In the climate that we in, and not only the climate that we in, and also the world being small as it is, but with us having health education and pathways and information known about HIV and how to spread it and all those good things. It's been 50 plus years. Why are we still, as a people, risking our lives and not doing what we're supposed to do to take care of our health and making sure we protect ourselves at all costs? I've been telling women for many years before you have sex with a man, and I'm telling you all this because, like I said, I've been married for a long time, but even though I've been married for a long time, I lived before my husband, and I followed these exact same rules when it came to my husband, because I value my life, and I wasn't going to go out like that. And because of the things that I've seen, how women got caught up with men, and some men got caught up with women, I wanted to make sure that I did my duty of protecting myself, and making sure that I did what I had to do to take care of me. Ladies, and I want to have this conversation, and men too, with all the information that we have out there about HIV. Why are we playing Russian roulette with our lives or over a few minute thrill? Why are you all not investing once you get through the first date, the second date, and you start to date that person, and when you all decide to get serious, right? And meaning, to me, what is serious to me is having sex. Okay? To me, sex is not a frivolous thing. To me, sex is a spiritual conviction, a spiritual covenant. And I just, it's a spiritual covenant. And I'm very careful and I'm very choosy about who I lay down with. And not only is it on a mental and a spiritual level, but also a physical level. But when you all are going on these dates or whatever, and you decide that you want to get this person some, why aren't you taking the proper precautions of scheduling a date, whether it's the 5th date, whether it's the 10th date, and even the 3rd date? I mean, I'm hoping and praying that when you grown, you do whatever however. But why aren't you all investing in planning dates and taking dates to the clinic to get tested before you lay down and have sex with them? Why are we still to this day not using protection? Let me tell you something. When me and my husband and I, we dated 4 months before anything else, right? And before we got into it. And even before him, all the men that I've been with, you had to get tested, okay? And so, and the reasons why I'm so animate on getting tested, I'm going to break it down to y'all. But when I met my husband, we dated 4 months before we got busy, okay? And when I made a decision that I was going to take our relationship and allow our relationship to grow, I went to him and I said, hey, listen, if you want to be with me, this is what you have to do. You have to get tested. Me and him, we went to the clinic. We went to the clinic together. We got tested together, and we switched our results. And then even after that, we still, even in our marriage, and as long as we've been married, we still go to the doctors together and get tested. It's always been that way. Even though we're in a monogamous marriage, even though we're always together, but still we always get tested and we share each other's results. That's just how we've done our relationship all these years. And then even the men that I've been with in the past, I am comfortable in knowing that I am clean, I am healthy, and my womb is healthy, and everything about me is safe. Okay? Because it's real out in here in these streets. It does not cost to go to a clinic, it does not cost a lot. You can go to Planned Parenthood, to your community clinic. You can go to the hospital. You can just even schedule with your primary physician and or your OBGYN, and say, hey, listen, dating, and let them know. Let your potential suitor and your potential partner know, hey, listen, before we take it any further, I want us to go ahead and go on a date to the clinic. You both go to the clinic, you sign your name, and you say, hey, listen, we're interested in each other, and before we take it any further, we want to make sure that we're proactive and making sure our health is good, and we want to share each other's results. All you got to do is just get tested. All you got to do is get tested, test your blood, and you good to go. That's it. That's all. And then, like I said, and if you clean, you go on about your business. And then if you decide, and like I said, then from there, you have the conversation of, of protection, of you still wanting to use protection. I still also advocate for protection because, of course, HIV is not the only STD that's out there. Of course, you'll go through a whole STD panel. But still, not only on top of that, children. Is this the person that you're going to want to, and that's a whole other thing. Is this you lay down with him? Is this the person you want to spend your life with, build your life with? Building your life comes also with having children. Having children is a legacy building. It's wealth building. That's a part of generational wealth. People don't realize, people realize, I don't know. If 1 + 1 if Johnny had 5 apples, it's not clicking. And so, but you think about that process, right? It doesn't take long. And it doesn't take long to protect yourself. You are your greatest investment. Your body is your greatest investment. And then when you're taking care of yourself and you're making sure that, hey, I'm about to be involved with this person good, I'm good, and you don't have to worry about being passed on anything, right? That's the goal. That's honestly the goal. And I'm not understanding the numbers of why it is 8,000 people in that district alone, in those districts alone, that is contracting with HIV. I'm going to be honest with you, and like I said, I'm about to be 44 years old next week. And I'm not understanding why HIV is a thing, still even to this day. After all the treatment, after all the things, after all the awareness, what is going on? What are we doing? I think the accountability starts with us. I'm gonna tell you the reason to why why I was so heavily on sexual health and wellness and all that. Everybody knows about my, I've been through some things in life. I'm a rape survivor and all those things, and also domestic abuse survivor. But also, I had different family members and friends growing up that different relationships and dynamics that I seen that embedded in my head, and it terrified me to the point that I knew certain boundaries I just wouldn't go over. And I would not allow anybody. There's a certain type of peace that I'm going to protect, and I wasn't just going to go out like that. I never forget, like I said, what made me intrigued me, what made me fascinated more when I became, when I was a kid, is that my parents had friends, and I believe I told this story before, but my parents had friends who were, they were married for a long time. And he was a upcoming minister and elder, and she was, and this is out of their congregation, right? And so this was a holy rolling very devoted religious couple, okay? And she was a good wife, and she married him. He was a model. He's known in the DC area, the DC DMV area and abroad, and he was a model, and he was a nice looking man, I will tell you that. And so I never forget, it was like 1993 or 1994. It was whispers around the congregation, and he began to get sick, and then the wife got sick, and then it was he was disfellowshipped from our congregation, and then it came out that he had HIV. AIDS. Well, actually, it moved into AIDS because at the time, I think 1993, even all the cocktails and the medication and all that stuff, people were still in the 80s and the 90s and early 90s. People was dropping like flies, and medicine was not as it's not as advanced as it is now. And so I know he only had it for a year and a half. And she ended up finding out that her husband had it. He was on a DL. And like I said, he was a model. He had other men on the side while he was supposed to be a minister. And he contracted HIV. And he ended up coming home and giving it to his wife. And then his wife ended up contracting it. She got pregnant, and unfortunately, back then, yes, the daughter, the baby, they end up having a baby. The baby was a girl, and she was born with HIV as well. And then, that's just one story it's countless stories that I know that is just, and that's close to me, of people who have been directly affected by HIV. But that stayed in my head for the longest. And it was like, I was like, oh no, if there's some way that you can get tested, even back then, I said, well, I'm going to figure out, what type of man that I got and everything else. I'm going to use my intuition, because some of us women, we know that we dealing with men ain't shit. And, but we just keep on riding. I knew that back then, and I know now that bullshit that Betty Wright said, and our grandparents told us about having a piece of man is better than no man involved. It's better than not to fucking scratch and burn, and not to be goddamn sitting up there on all different types of medications because my man couldn't be loyal and faithful to me, and now I got a hot pocket and that's ruined. Oh hell no. No. I knew my value then. I knew that one of the ways that I could protect myself, and when I was going to, like I said, as a woman, protecting myself is making sure that any man that I dealt with, right? Any man that I dealt with, they got tested. And and if they denied it, if they fought against it, they wasn't worth my time. And we wasn't being bothered. It was just that pinpoint and simple. Ladies, let me tell you something. I know our grandmamas and our grandmamas and our grannies and our aunties, they taught us something different. Sometimes they had badass relationships. They, husbands had outside kids and was probably bringing them all types of nasty common STDs from messing around with a whole bunch of women. But let me tell you something. The greatest thing that you can do for yourself when it comes down to a relationship where you can always have the upper hand on yourself is making sure you're in charge. You are in charge of your sexual health. And meaning that wherever you deal with, men or women, it doesn't matter, right? Get tested. Get your partners tested. Get them tested beforehand. And get them tested while you are together. Me and my husband, we used to go get tested every 6 months. It was just like, even after we got married. And not saying that I had any doubt or I didn't trust him, but it's about your health. It's about yourself and knowing who you are and your status, and knowing how to rip and move. And like I said, in dealing with anybody, why would you want to have sex with somebody who does not, that you don't know? I always tell women all the time, do background checks. Yes, do your criminal background check on men. I did it on my husband. I had to learn the hard way. Shit, I was knocked around a couple times before it came clear to me that, hey, yeah. Not in this marriage now, but I can tell you in what I've been through with my ex. And he was a hoe. A bona fide one. And because of what and even before that, I always protected myself. And even with my ex, even when he was out there, even before I found out he was, being fast out in the street, when we got together, it was, oh no, you got to get tested. Well, when we got tested. Test these men. Know your power. Stand on that. Stand on the fact that, yes, I'm going to get this man. We're going to go to the clinic. And if he tells you no, if there's any pushback, and if he give you all kinds of foolishness, leave him to the curb. I always have a saying that men is like buses. One leaves, next one comes 2.5 minutes later. There's no such thing as there is not enough men around. There's no such thing as there's no good men around. They're around. Date them all, sis, but date them to the point where knowing where they stand. And dating does not mean sex. Sex and dating is not the same thing. Date them, court them, and let the best man win. And then also when they're dating you, like I said, get your background check, get the credit check, and you also get an STD full-on panel together. And you move accordingly. It is completely insane to me that the numbers are still that high. DC, Baltimore, and Atlanta, and just in our communities, unfortunately, because of, and I'm not going to say lack of resources, right? Because the resources are there. Like I said, you can get tested, or you can get condoms. There's women condoms. I've taught so many classes on women, how many women, how to use a female condom. Like I said, I never forget. And I was amazed when I was teaching classes of how, teaching female classes and also intimacy classes. I was teaching how to, apply a female condom. And I was surprised with a lot of women who don't know. Like, ladies, how are you protecting yourselves? You are your greatest investment. Why are you letting these men play with your top like that? No man should. I'm telling you, you shouldn't even. A man shouldn't even kiss you. A man shouldn't even kiss you because I'm telling you. He can shake your hand. He can kiss you on your cheek, or he can kiss your hand. But at the same time, but until you get tested, until you figure out how clean they are, and it's not only like I said, there is genital warts, there's herpes, there is hepatitis C, trichomonas, chlamydia, gonorrhea. There's a new gonorrhea that's going around that can eat your, that is antibacterial resistant. There's so many other diseases. HPV. Why risk yourself into value yourselves? And we got to do something about these numbers. And I'm telling you all right now, DC in the DMV area is small. Everybody is effing everybody, or everybody knows somebody by somebody, because like I said, it's not a big area, it's small. And shit is real out here. Like I said, I'm 40. Next week I'll be 44. So I'm already saying I'm 44. I'm 44. The AIDS epidemic should not still be a thing the way that it is. It's time for some accountability. It's time for us to start knowing our worth. And it's time for us to start being proactive. That's my take on it. And let's get on to the other conversation. I have a question with y'all. Do y'all know the percentage of the success rate of an open marriage? Does anybody know the percentage of a open marriage? Let me tell you something. I don't judge. I barely listen. And I don't judge. But there is different relationship dynamics. Monogamy. Like I said, there's different constructs. There's open marriages. There's polygamy. There's polyamorous. There's monogamy. There is like the situationships and all of that, right? And like I said, not knocking anybody how they, and every relationship is different. And there is relationships that are out there that are open. And open meaning that, it's them together as a couple. And mainly they are exclusive, except for when they want to step out and they don't mind blending, bringing someone into the marriage, or having something extra on the side. It says when we together, but when we not together and we separate, and if we see something, then hey, that's what we like. Or there is people who enjoy being married and bringing people inside of the marriage. Let me tell you this. The worst thing that you can do is bring somebody into your relationship. Because the day that you open up that can of worms of having somebody come into your marriage and into your union, and and you all break the covenant of the spiritual connection and the bond that you all make together as being a husband and wife, and you allowing another entity, another spiritual entity to come in to just lay down for sexual purposes. Again, I don't listen, I don't judge, but I'm going to keep you the truth. Your marriage is not going to succeed. Let me tell you something. Open marriages has been a thing for a very long time. We saw listen, if you read whatever spiritual text that you read, right? Polyamory has always been, or is it not polyamory? Polygamy has always been a thing, right? We know thousands and thousands of years ago, our ancestors, and even down to like Egypt and Africa, and even down to this day over in Africa, there is men in different countries. There is men who are allowed to have up to 4 or 5 wives. Okay, and it's always been a thing, but at what cost, right? The men was able to control it. The men was able to, they was able to live up to having multiple women in polygamous marriages in other countries is a form of wealth. Okay, but for us westernized women in westernized marriages, I'm gonna be honest, it doesn't work. The reason why it doesn't work because number one, a lot of us are in our ego, and we are rightfully so selfish. And when you get into a marriage, it's supposed to be about you and your person and God, and then if you all create your own line of your own bloodline within each other and create a family, that is your union together. But your marriage is supposed to be sacred, and nobody else is supposed to come in and tap in and sleep with your person. Like I said, polygamy can go both ways. Like I said, there's men who, of course, we've always heard the stories of men being polygamous, but also women can be as well. Over in Africa and also in Asia, there is, and I believe it's Nepal as well. But there is women who actually have 2 and 3 husbands. But again, their social construct and also relationships are looked at differently. But here in westernized cultures, and even over in African countries, African cultures, or even in Arabic cultures, that's why they have the first wife, the second wife, and the third wife. And it's they're able to control it to some point. Because it's under a patriarchy control. But here, because you're risking, like I said, you're going to bring another entity in your life. You all flipping, you all doing whatever you're doing. You having your fun, you having your time, and having all types of spontaneous good sex together. But then eventually somebody gets connected spiritually, and they're going to want whoever to themselves, and or they may want to branch out, and to be honest, in some cases sex can be a drug, and just like drugs have a gateway of opening, that sex drug can open up a gateway, and while you're opening your marriage to different people, and you sit up here allowing that person to stick their hand wherever they want to, if they don't have a respect, and if you don't have a boundary within your marriage, what makes you think that they're not going to go outside of your marriage and and find somebody else outside of the marriage? We got to start respecting marriage the way that we used to. I've heard so many times people sit up here and say, oh, and especially my generation, and I've heard young people, like I've had conversations even recently, and I often have conversations with my sons about, my sons, because now they're at the age of dating, and even I have, my kids are older, so that is always having a mom who's a sex educator. We've been talking about sex education and relationships since birth. And so, but I have the conversations often about the consequences of laying with somebody and also having multiple bodies and sleeping with multiple people and all of that. I have those conversations. But when you allow somebody into your marriage, right, you're breaking the covenant. And then all hell is going to break loose. You may think it's cute and you may think it's fun and it's spontaneous to have other people come in, but baby, down the line, the Jericho walls tumbling down. It ain't gonna work. And ladies, I'm gonna honestly tell you something else. Once you open up that door, it's done. It's done. And you cannot, because like I said, you are, by doing that, you're not establishing boundaries, right? You may say, we have rules, we have this in place. Honey, let's talk about men are very much, especially when it comes down to sex, there's a hypnotizing underlying addiction with a lot of men when it comes down to sex. And they gonna test you out. They're gonna test your drive. They're gonna test where they can go, what they can do with you, where they can go with you, and if they can bring somebody in or whatever, right? And if you sort of here, you give boundaries in the beginning, but then you allow some things, like if a man comes and tell you or try to convince you that, he needs somebody else, that he can't make you his priority, and that he needs an option, and that the option may be good for both of y'all, it don't work, baby. I promise you it don't work. Because once they get a taste of a taste of somebody else and it's good and y'all having some good, he gonna want to go back for more. And then what makes you think that he's not going to continuously, girl? Men want to have sex mostly all day, every day. If you have a good, healthy sex drive and your testosterone is high as hell when it comes down to men, oh, honey, they like to bust it down any and every time that they can. If the wind blows and it makes it rise, they gonna need something to massage it to make it go down. That's true, T. Men, y'all get honest. Tell them she ain't lying. If he's out here testing it, and what if you're not home one day? What if you all, you out or whatever, you going on a weekend, y'all having some issues, you think he not going to want to step outside and get him a little taste of that something strange that you allowed to come in? Or might even meet something. Let me tell you something that I've learned. Like I said, I've been married now for, oh my God, 20-something years, right? Almost 20 years. I'm going to tell you something. A man that values you and see you as a priority and values you, see you as a priority, that you are his only, is not going to want anybody else. If he's not going to want anybody else, there's nothing that he's never even going to bring that to your attention. He's never going to bring that vibe to you or anything. He's just going to want you and only you. And he's not going to want to mess up what he got. because he values you. You his, like I said, you A1. You A1. That man ain't gonna play about you or do anything to play about you with in order to jeopardize solution. Having sex with another woman is not gonna keep your man at home. It's just not. And once you realize that and value that, you'll be good. Don't ever let no man feel like you're not pressure enough for him to just settle down with you and be with you only. Because you are big pressure. But how you going about it accordingly? How you... Listen. I've been through some things in life, so that's why at 44 I can say these things. And I'm not saying, and yes, I am a wife, and I'm not saying that my relationship is perfect because it's never been perfect. But I can tell you that for me and mine, and my husband's older, it's never been another woman, and it will never be another woman. And I would never invite nobody in my home. And even with my first marriage, I wish a nigga would try me. Excuse me how I say it, but I wish a dude would try me. Bye. If you can't see me as an option and only want me for me and only me and that's it, you ain't the one, buddy. Like I said, get on the, one man gets off the bus and the next bus comes 2 minutes later. I'm not tripping. I've always had that mindset. But I knew also not to risk myself. And let me tell you something. Like I said, open marriages has always been a thing. I know one of my favorite couples of all times was Ruby Dee and her husband. And they were married for, 60, 70 years? They were married. But at one point in time, they had an open relationship, and they talked about the open relationship that they had and how it did, almost mess up the church's money, and they had to get it together and fix their marriage, and they did, and they went on, and they was able to survive. But we're not them kind of women no more. It's like I said, listen, like I said, you treat me right, I'm gonna treat you right, but there is no such thing as Papa was Rolling Stone over here, or my husband had, going out here and meeting somebody and having outside kids, or I do not believe in the concept of a piece of man is better than having no man at all. No, ma'am, not over here. We don't do that. I come from the ideology of when one man won't act right, you get another one. And if that man won't act right, then you get another one. And if that man don't act right, you get another. I absolutely believe in that. If a man cannot do what he's supposed to do by you, and if he feels as if he got to add something in there to you that he's telling you on his own, he don't like you, you ain't the one, and he's just using you for the good time until he find the right one. That's what a man is telling you. And that ain't my type of style. So, like I said, it's just some old auntie wisdom that I've learned along the way. But y'all drop down in the comments and y'all tell me how y'all feel about that. The question is, DMV, why the hell, and especially PG County, and the Oxon Hill, Temple Hills, Forest Creek area, why the hell is the AIDS rate so high? Why and what is going on for you all to still be out here wilding and knowing that all it has to take is you using your brain and saying and calming your hormones down, and you can have power over yourself. I trust me. Yes, your hormone. I guess I understand your sexual hormones and libido and all that, but There's a power in it. There's nothing wrong with going to, like I said, the clinic. What? That's a 30-minute to an hour visit. A 30 to an hour visit will beforehand will save your life. Do you not value yourself? What's going on? So let's comment. What's going on? Why is the AIDS rate still high? And valuing marriage. Let's talk about it. I'm going to get off here. I got on here just, like I said, I'm laying down. I had medicine. So now the medicine is kicking in. But y'all comment down below. I'm going to try to save this, upload it to other places. But yeah, this was a good conversation. Let's comment down below. How y'all feel?